My name is Kathy Thompson, and I'm pleased to welcome you to the Rewire to Relaunch interview series presented by Am in Motion. As part of my own coaching practice, I love to work with ambitious female business owners and entrepreneurs and shine a bright light on the work that they do to support people like you. And today I am pleased to be speaking with Lisa Taraba from I Thrive Coaching. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Kathy.
It's so great to see you and meet you. I'm excited to learn more about your business. So, start us off with sharing, what do you do at I Thrive Coaching?
All right. Well, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to share that I love what I do. So I work mostly with senior leaders, business owners, and other accomplished professionals. And my passion is helping them to shift their mindset. So, as leaders, helping them to realize that their leadership is a little less about their competence and more about the energy behind their skill set. So, it's really how they show up, how they influence change, not just for themselves, but for those that they work with and their organization as a whole. So, one of the things that I really enjoy doing is, again, developing these partnerships where clients can understand some of the old fear-based stories that they may be telling themselves, so that they can shift away from being self-conscious of who they've learned to be or how they have to show up, and be really fully conscious of who they are as the leaders of their lives and their businesses. So that's where their power as a leader lies, within them.
Very interesting. Yeah, I love that sort of, not just that external, but the energy
Yeah.
piece. And so, how do you work with your clients and bring out that energy and that authentic leadership style?
Well, I use a number of tools, and one of the key ones is an assessment tool called the Energy Leadership Index. So, if you think of life as a roller coaster, I like to think of it a little bit more as a twister or a tornado. So, we spiral up when life is great, and we spiral down when we're up against some challenges. And so, this ELI, or Energy Leadership Index, it gives you an idea of what your energy is, or how you show up, how you present yourself when you're up at the top of the spiral and when you're down at the bottom of the spiral. And then when you are down at the bottom of the spiral, how can we catapult you back up? So, how can we increase that resilience so you come back up as the calm, confident leader that you truly are?
So interesting. I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
Energy Leadership Index. Oh,
index, yes.
so cool. So, tell me, Lisa, how did your business start?
So it started about 8 years ago is when I started I Thrive Coaching. And prior to that, I worked in healthcare for some 20 years. And I loved it. I really was passionate about what I did. Having said that, I didn't realize that I had lost some of that passion and drive until I landed in the hospital. And I was in hospital for 5 days, very unexpected. Um, and I was told that I had to have a bone marrow biopsy to rule out cancer. And so that night, I will say, was one of those days where I was down at the bottom of the spiral, swirling around in terms of, like, why do I deserve to be sick? What's going to happen to my kids if I'm not here? And the question that really got to me was, why is this happening to me? Like, what have I done to deserve this? And it was at that point that I realized, you know what? This isn't happening to me. I'm not in hospital because it's happening to me. This is happening for me. This is happening for me to wake up and realize that while my life looked lovely on paper, husband, young children, great job, I was so out of alignment with myself and my values. That fulfillment wasn't there anymore. I was more moving through the motions. Yeah, and so that was a really pivotal day for me, and I made a choice in that moment, no matter what the results were, that I was going to be more present, more focused, and be more purposeful in the choices that I made. And I'm very happy to say that it wasn't cancer. It
Excellent.
was a really weird adverse reaction to antibiotics for sinus infection, of all things.
Really?
Yeah, that happened to affect all of my bodily organs. Very strange. So that was my real shift in terms of my
Hmm.
mindset. And then I gave myself actually an opportunity to step back. And so I resigned as a manager with public health, gave allowed myself to just go on this journey of self exploration, which led me to go back to school to become a coach and help other driven leaders really align with their personal power.
Wow. Very
Yeah.
cool. I can relate to that type of story. I've come up against different situations where, I had a serious concussion about 6 years ago, debilitating. And, I sat there and said, like, why? Why is this happening
Yes.
to me? And the message for me was, you have to learn a new way to work. And it was so clear, and I'll never forget it. Similar to you,
Yes.
it's not happening to us, it's happening for us to create these realizations and become more aligned with the work we're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so for you, in terms of working with your clients, what is that impact that they receive from working with you?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is that when I work with clients, we work together to help them show up as the true, authentic leaders of their lives. So it's about really understanding who they are and allowing that aspect to shine as opposed to who they've learned to be. So we wear many hats, right? I've learned to be a mom, a spouse, a dietitian, now a coach, and those are all hats and ways we describe ourselves. But we often start to believe that that's who we are, and not just what we are. And so I really help people come back into that place of power so that they are much more empowered and they're in the driver's seat of their life. So, what does that look like in terms of leadership? They're a lot less overwhelmed, frustrated, stressed than they used to be. And that really the biggest shift that I hear time and time again from clients is that perspective of life isn't happening to me anymore. It's
Mm,
happening for me. And it's a slight change. It's the word two to four, but it makes a big difference because no longer at the bottom, you're not at the bottom of the spiral as a victim anymore. You can bring yourself back up to that place of power. They release a lot of unrealistic expectations. Driven leaders are often leaders full of expectations, especially of self and of others. There can be some perfectionistic tendencies that flow through there, but there also can be a lot of chatter going on in terms of what are others thinking of me, self judgment, what if they find out who I really am, a little bit of that imposter syndrome, and how should I be showing up in this moment. So when we start to challenge those expectations, when we start to challenge those stories and lean into vulnerability, confidence can start to rise. And we can be much more creative in our problem solving when challenges arise. When we're up at the top of the spiral, chaos can be swirling around us, but we're not caught up in it
mhm,
where we are down at the bottom. So we have a bigger perspective. Then we're more empowered and we
mhm.
can empower others to step into their own power. And that's an amazing place to lead from. That place of confidence where then we're collaborating, we're communicating, there's great cohesion and a shift in the culture. And leaders can go to bed at night. They can go to bed at night and sleep
Right.
and not be ruminating over everything that transpired through the day and what's coming
Yeah.
up for the next day.
Yeah. Call Lisa. Stop ruminating. I like your philosophy, and I think that this is such a valuable service that you're providing leaders, because there does become a point, I believe, in the leadership journey where sometimes you can't see yourself from another perspective. Some of those negative beliefs creep up, and I feel that to be the most authentic leader you can be, as you were saying, really take care of those things and show up as your best self every day and live your life for you and
Yes.
how it makes sense.
Yeah.
Sense for you.
And it's a very subtle shift, if I can just add to that, Kathy.
Sure. Yeah.
We often learn that putting ourselves as the center of our world is selfish, but it's
Hmm.
actually a very self loving act. And consider what the world would look like if more of us treated ourselves with the same love and compassion that we do others. So I will leave that with you.
Yes, that's good. Very good. Thank you, Lisa. It was lovely to meet you today.
My pleasure.